he offered me personally in May of 1992 $2 billion if I would join his team and not do what I've been doing.
You know why $2 billion is hard to believe? Because the only reason he would have gone to $2 billion is because you kept saying no to 50 million, 10 million, 100 million, 200 million, and it eventually goes to $2 billion. Person to go from zero to will give you $2 billion for this, it's truly, the word is unbelievable, because somebody would offer 100 grand, 500 grand,
well,
$1 million.
They knew that none of that amount would have mattered.
Okay, so let's get this straight. Stephen Greer was offered $2 billion, okay, to not talk about this topic, and the host there was expressing some disbelief, right? Because it's an insane number to start with, and it's quite significant. Stephen Greer has been gaining so much credibility through media, movies, credible sources in high ranks within government. He's been releasing whistleblowers since fucking forever. He's on par with George Knapp, and they've been covering this topic for a really long time, and I'm really excited to see how everything comes out, how the puzzle pieces fit together, because Jake Barber has given so much credibility to Stephen Greer. So make sure you let me know what you think about everything mentioned right now, and let's see what's coming up.
Is it an actual, is there actually a undisclosed division where your job is to gaslight and confuse people, or is it
absolutely,
or is it everyone's job to gaslight and distract? Because like the opposite of a marketing, how like the propaganda book that was written, the opposite of marketing, which is you're marketing a lie to confuse the American people, so they're looking here versus here. You're saying there's a division of people that do that intentionally.
Yes, it's a whole counterintelligence, psychological warfare operations out of CIA and other agencies, and that's what they do. And I've known some of these players since the early 90s. One of them that had been involved back in those days was had been head of special forces and Army intelligence named General Albert Stubblebine, and he offered me personally in May of 1992 $2 billion if I would join his team and not do what I've been doing. And, I was in my 30s, and as a young doctor, I thought, well, it's
$2 billion, Steve.
Yes.
You know how hard that is to believe?
Oh, I don't care. Put me under a lie detector. Ask my wife. We're having our 46th anniversary this year. That's what happened. Then he approached her. But you have to understand the money involved. Why is this so secret? It either exists or it doesn't exist. It does exist. How could it be kept so secret? And this is a long discussion to get into, of what the modus operandi is of counterintelligence on this. But, it's through bribery, blackmail, threats, wet works, targeted killings, assassinations.
You know why $2 billion is hard to believe? Because the only reason he would have gone to $2 billion is because you kept saying no to 50 million, 10 million, 100 million, 200 million, and it eventually goes to $2 billion.
No, because they knew, okay, let's cut to something that's very controversial. This is what's starting to come out through these black sites where they have operators that target the non-human craft.
Guys, imagine saying no to $2 billion motherfucking dollars, right? This amount of money changes everything within an individual's life. Having anything you want, not being strained and chained by the societal, economic, being a modern slave, right? Your children's children could have everything, right? Like their whole fucking family tree is taken care of really well. So Stephen Greer said no to that, and there was immediately some back pushing, and rightfully so, right? That's an insane statement that needs to be questioned and dissected and put under a microscope, right? Got to be taking a look at it in every angle, cause Stephen Greer says a lot of crazy shit, and that whistleblower way back when that recently came out due to a Trump pardon, he whistleblowed that there were terrestrial and extraterrestrial officers, and he saw so many weird shit when he hacked NASA. He got so much backlash, and he wanted to be made an example of by the government. He did not want that, but the government wanted to make an example out of him. So yeah, this is all stuff to consider. Really interesting to have this context together, right?
So I think the value. I don't think I'm important in this at all. I think
I'm still stuck on $2 billion because to me, like
that's nothing to these guys.
Well, but no, hear me out, Rob. Can you pull up the stubble buying fellow, if you don't mind? Fun fact about this guy: he was born on February 6th, and he died on February 6th. And Ronald Reagan was born, I believe, on February 6th. If you can go up to so here's the.
Yep,
this is the person that offered you $2 billion.
Correct.
So, U.S. Army general, who active duty, spent 32 years, beginning an Army officer, later on, intelligence, creditor, redesigning U.S. Army intelligence. Okay, over the course of it, he became widely known that he maintained a keen interest in psychic warfare throughout his career. He sought to develop an army of soldiers with special powers, such as the ability to walk through walls. Whoa.
Yep.
Okay, interesting.
So I really love how this interviewer is going into it and pushing for more information. Looking up the guy on Wikipedia that Greer has mentioned was the one offering the $2 billion. So there needs to be more looked into this man, because sounds like some serious corruption or mafia type shit. Where the fuck does this guy, government employee, get $2 billion to offer, and it's nothing to him, right? Like, where is that a, convincing reality? Like, let me know what you think. Do you think this man really offered Greer $2 billion? And check the next part out, because we're not fucking done yet, okay? So walking through walls sounds really similar to the walking through doors that was seen in, I don't know if everyone knows this, but just to give you some context to what I'm talking about, Tim Taylor, mentioned by so many of the largest UFO researchers and members of the community, right? They mentioned Tim Taylor and him being this person that does not get checked by TSA, does what he wants, highest member of NASA, works for the Hammer, which he also said, I can't remember the exact movie's name, but in this movie that he said is most like his life, and it seems like it's somehow based on his life, or he gave input, because it's time travel. Thompson, Townsend, Brown, whatever. Tim Taylor, right? This guy works for the Hammer, he's stated, and the Hammer works for God, supposedly was said by Chris Bledsoe, etc. And they walked with these hats, these special hats, like Men in Black, hats. They walk through doors and they enter different time frames, and can't remember how exactly that is structured, but you need the hat to walk through the door. So I don't know if that connects somehow, but really weird and odd similarities. Make sure you watch that movie. I'll try and remember the name, put it in the comments or whatever the fuck, right?
So he offered you $2 billion. So,
well, he was representing a group that had that access.
So you were 30 years old. They wanted to give you $2 billion.
No, in 92, I would have been 36.
36 years old. So when he offered, so you know why that's tough? You ever seen a movie, Horrible Bosses, where they say, hey, we're trying to kill our bosses. And he says, you got to go talk to motherfucking Jones. And they go, and the guy they're negotiating with, he says, hey, we want to take out our bosses, $50,000. And then he says, $500, I'll do it. And it kind of goes to the bottom. It's like, for a person to go from zero to we'll give you $2 billion for this, it's truly, the word is unbelievable, because somebody would offer $100 grand, $500 grand,
well,
$1 million.
They knew that none of that amount would have mattered. They thought if it was large enough and had real power behind it, because they had money from the collapse of the Soviet Union out of Eastern Europe that they had confiscated through these black programs and rather criminal tentacles that they were operating. Later he left all that behind. So I'm talking early 90s here. Not what he did, in the 2000s, but they had the ability to do that, and I think they thought I would be more trouble than they wanted to risk, and I think they really wanted to get people involved in their projects that they could control, because money controls people, and this is why I've always rejected offers of money or position or power, and do to this day. But that's not often done, and I guess they had.
Another really odd fact is Stephen Greer is seeming to try and come off as this money doesn't matter, you're doing it for the right reasons, but in all his apps and ventures, his books, his the everything he offers mostly is covered behind a paywall, and that's increasingly so. He's known as someone who asks for money to get access to some of these important things. So it's really a contradiction if you look at it with everything relevant considered, right?
A reading on who I was as a soul or a person, that it would have to be a big number to move me. And though I must say, when he went behind my back to my wife thought he was so nice. And I say, yeah, devils speak with forked tongue, because of my grandmother's Cherokee. But
so you try to charm your wife?
Yes. Yeah.
And what did he say that maybe your wife came to you and said, babe, you should consider this?
Well, there's a lot of flattery, the usual things that con artists and people like that do.
So you would call him a con man?
Well, on this, certainly. I mean, but he was an operator. He was someone who was operating with a number of other people who are still around today, some of them, working that issue, trying to divert people who could be a little bit too much trouble. As Gordon Croydon said, who used to publish Flying Saucer Review that, Prince Philip and Prince Charles would get. He told me when we interviewed him at his cottage in England, he says, people who are a little too much trouble, we just can erase them, and get rid of them.
Yeah, because when you say $2 billion, it's a lot easier to get rid of you than pay you $2 billion.
Correct.
If they have, if a person has enough power to approve a $2 billion bribe, that person also has the same enough power to also eliminate you.
Correct.
So why waste $2 billion?
Well, and those attempts happened after that. But anyway, I don't want to get too much into that part of the person. My personal story is not, it's a tragic story, actually. But so there's no point in rehashing 30 years of that. We don't have time.